Okay, here you go. I saved the splinter. That's the splinter that I took out from underneath Dennis's fingernail. I talked about it yesterday. Isn't that crazy? You can get the size of it from, well, I could get a ruler and tell you exactly how long it is, but it's pretty crazy. There it is. There's it with a ruler. So it was 5/8 of an inch long. Oh my God. Good morning. It's Barbara. It is raining and dreary and very humid out there. So I'm inside. Shock of shocks. I did move my flowers out from under the umbrella. So they have been rained on all night and they're getting rained on right now. You want to close that door? Even though the washer isn't very noisy. Dennis is running a load of wash, and the washer isn't very noisy, except it's got a dozen or 2 dozen wine bottles on top of it, and they're going. You might not even have heard that, but I was just being proactive. Okay, so this is the Maybelline vinyl I get at the grocery store, and oh. I should turn the light on. It is really, really dark. This is color Koi. You have seen this before. I was feeling Koi today, I guess. Wow, that is so close to the real color of my lips. I didn't remember that. Which means I don't really need lipstick, right? My nephew would agree. This is his least favorite part of my vlog. There you go. Koi. I guess I'm always a little coy. No thanks. Thank you, sweetie. I was able to read it. It's too bright with the light on. It's kind of crazy. Because I'm in pretty much dark. I'm in much darker than it looks to you on my screen, which made it very hard to read that. But you just saw bright is the light on is too bright. Good morning. Thank you for joining me for coffee. Did I say I'm Barbara? And I can tell you, it is barely morning. It's been a leisurely morning for me. A frustrating morning for Dennis because our toilet broke. So he is headed out to Home Depot to get a part. You know how that is. When he didn't plan on plumbing for his day today. But he's the plumber in the family, unfortunately for him. And he's the Home Depot shopper. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell I'm wearing lipstick. So interesting. And I do not remember that. Did I say these things the last time I tried it on? And it's a long-lasting lipstick. But it isn't exactly dry, so it's interesting. Anyway, enough with that. Good morning. It's Barbara. Thank you for joining me for coffee. Still morning. So as I said, I moved my flowers yesterday because rainy days coming. I wanted to get that they're not planted, but at least they can get watered. And so I did not stay outside after I finished my vlog yesterday because it started raining, and we had the hot water heater installer guy here from the solar hot water heater place. And so, oh my gosh, he got here about 7:45 in the morning, which is early for us, as you can imagine. He didn't leave till 5, so he was busy all day, and I cannot tell you how many times he went up and down those steps. But the thing is that every time he went up and down the steps, Dennis or I had to hop up and grab the dog because it was raining, so we couldn't put the dogs out. Yeah. So, but he was here all afternoon. Now, I did go, I moved the car while I was talking to you, and that worked out great because I was able to go and I did my errands. I had to go to the bank, I had to go to the grocery store, and of course, I wanted to visit with Aura. She was in very high spirits. She was feeling really good, and she did not mention wanting to come back to live with us spontaneously, and of course, I didn't bring it up. So that's always a good sign, you know. It's always, you know, always feel a little bad when the first thing she says, "Oh, good, you're here. Are you here to take me home?" Like, no, this is your home. And she hasn't done that in a while. And I think she's, you know, really kind of acclimatized. She's getting to know people. She's enjoying their company for the most part, except for Margaret, who just happens to be her roommate. But she is only in her room to sleep. There is not a comfy chair. She doesn't have a recliner or anything. So they do not have to interact a lot. And that's probably good. And it's funny because Margaret and her sister-in-law are the only two people she's ever said to me that she didn't like. So that's interesting to me. She had a sister-in-law who was a piece of work. They used to live in Florida, and her Garland's sister and her brother and her husband came to visit, and they had a lovely, for a few years they had a really wonderful house with a pool, you know, sort of a master's suite and a guest suite. It was really lovely. We were so sad when they moved out of there. And they stayed overnight, and, you know, Aura asked her, you know, how did you sleep? It was the worst night I have ever had in my whole life. And Aura's like, she was in the Battle of the Bulge. She went across the ocean in a troop ship. She was a nurse. And this was the worst night of sleep she ever had. Anyway. Aunt Frances. I have a Frances story, and I probably have told you this story. Dennis and I, we were at a family gathering, and I didn't know Frances very well, and I didn't see her very, very often. She lived in North Carolina, so I only saw her, you know, I probably saw her less than a handful of times the whole time before she passed. Maybe not even that many. But we were at this family picnic gathering, you know, and Dennis and I were very excited because we were just about to go off for a, like, 5 days in London, you know, fling. And we were very excited. So we were talking about our trip. And as, you know, as we're leaving, people would say, "Oh, have a great time on your trip," you know. And I said, "Oh, thank you. If I don't have a good time, it's my own fault." And she grabbed my arm and very seriously said to me, "It could be Dennis's fault." Oh, poor Uncle John. Anyway, Aura was good yesterday. And yeah, she was good yesterday. So Dennis is going to go over this afternoon when we have Holly, our physical therapist that she's been having for quite a while, is going to be there. And so Dennis likes to go when Holly's there so he can see how she's doing and confer with Holly. So he'll be doing that this afternoon. And then tonight, it's really late, you know, Vicky's coming in like almost midnight, and Dennis will be there to pick her up tonight. So she's traveling today because, you know, she loses 3 hours and, you know, so she goes in the morning early and she gets here late at night. That's how it works when you have 4 time zones. Of course, if you lived in Russia, you would have 11 time zones. So 4 time zones is, you know, average, I guess. Not average. If you have a long, skinny country like Chile, They only have one time zone. But if you lay Chile, if you put Chile, like the bottom of Chile and the bottom of the United States on the map, if you like cut it out of the map and laid it on and it was the right perspective, Chile would go all the way up to the Arctic area. I don't know if literally the Arctic Circle, but Chile is really long. Those of you in Chile already know that. But anyway, I think it only has one time zone because it's skinny. So anyway, Vicky's coming tonight, so she'll be here tomorrow. She may be on the vlog. It's probably going to be raining, so I won't be, I'll be right here in the middle of everything. You can see my beautiful Mother's Day flowers on the table still. They're holding up. I need to go through them, though. I felt like I was smelling them a little bit more last night, so it could be like the lilies are. There's tiger lilies. Right, the orangey ones, which are not as fragrant as like the Easter lilies, but they do get fragrant, so I might have to cull a little bit, but they're still beautiful. So yesterday I did my errands, which was great. Made a phone call, organized something, which was great, and that reminds me I have to check my emails because they were supposed to email me something. Or maybe they're waiting. I discovered, and I may have told you this, I can't remember what I say. When I was doing my parents' tax return, I discovered, I'm sure I told you about this, my father had a whole life insurance policy. And because I was having trouble getting my parents' mail, I didn't get the 1099 because it was earning interest, and so, but he had the 1099 from last year, so I had all the information about State Farm. So I made a phone call and got the number so that I could put it on their tax return. But I got a little information about that life insurance policy. He took it out, according to the lady on the phone, in 1953, which was the year before I was born. And it was, the beneficiary are his lawful wife or something like that. And the secondary beneficiaries are the issue from said wife. What if he got married twice? I don't know. He didn't, so it worked out. So I was talking to the lady yesterday, finally like calling his agent, and they said, oh, they've been trying to get in touch with me. I think they got saw the death notice. They probably go through the obituary things, I imagine. Anyway, the funeral home wouldn't give them my information, which I was glad for, but it would have been nice if the funeral home told me that they wanted my information so that I could have gotten in touch with them. But doesn't matter. Anyway, there's some controversy or unknown factor about who is the beneficiary. When because my father passed on the 4th of July, my mother passed on August 17th. So she's saying that the kids are the beneficiaries, and I'm saying no, my mother was the beneficiary. She was alive at the time of my father's passing. But apparently current life insurances like this, you have to live 30 days between, the beneficiary has to live at least 30 days past the death of the owner of the policy. And this makes perfect sense. So like if my parents were in a car crash, and ultimately both died, they wouldn't have to determine who died first or anything, especially in something like a plane crash, where how would you know who died first, that kind of thing. Anyway, currently it's 30 days, but she says, but when this policy was put into place, we don't know what the rule was, so they have to do some research, because they were just going to give it to the kids. I'm like, that's not how, no, my mother inherited that as far as I'm concerned. And her will then wouldn't distribute it to me and my brothers. Her will would distribute it to the grandchildren. So probably talk to my brothers and say, even if they give us this money, I'm going to put it in the pot for Mama, because that's how she, you know, she would want it. I'm really trying to do what my people wanted. I'm trying to do what my sister intended. I want to do what my mother intended. And they're all making it hard. So we shall see. I was thinking I was going to get an email from them, but I'm not, until they decide who the beneficiary is as far as they're concerned. So then the question is my sister a beneficiary? She was alive when my mom passed for 2 more days. But if my mom's not a beneficiary, then my sister can't be either. Right? You would think. Because everything is complicated. Nothing is straightforward. But so I you know, ran errands, did dishes, you know, that kind of stuff yesterday, puttered, it rained, got my flowers in the right place, visited with Aura. So I'm feeling, you know, I did something, not a lot. Let's face facts. Today I'm puttering. I got to clear the table a little bit. Vicky's coming tonight. Got to make sure that her room is organized. I got a pile of towels on her bed, so I'm going to move the towels off her bed. Organize a set of towels for her. Organize towels for Russ and Pat, because they're coming on Friday. And make sure everything is kind of straight in that corner of the world, although nobody's living there now, so it's pretty straight. Pete and Terry zipped through the upstairs the last time they were here, because, you know, the 2 bedrooms, all they needed to do was dust and vacuum, and the bathroom nobody used. So it doesn't take long to clean a bathroom nobody's used in a month. I mean, you got to clean it, but it's not a big deal. So everything's clean. And yeah. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing today. Leisurely, we'll walk the dogs if we have a good, you know, time between the rain. I'll be the plumber's helper when Dennis fixes the toilet. Sometimes I'm less help than I could be, because, you know, I'm full of suggestions. And sometimes it's hard for me to just keep my mouth shut and just hand him something. But I'll try, because I want to help him. I threw away that sliver. I didn't want to look at it anymore. Follow up on the sliver. His finger doesn't, he can tell there's something going on with it when he presses on it, but otherwise, so far so good. It's not looking infected. It's not pink or anything, so that's all good. So that's what's happening with me in my little world here. A lot of people for the next week. We got people happening, and then yeah, Christy's coming the 2nd week in June ish, something like that. I did put it on the calendar for a few days. She's going to be in Virginia for a class anyway on the 1st week of June. So while she's in the neighborhood, she's going to come do her summer trip home rather than come back. She normally would come at the end of July. But so we're having a bit of a change this year, and we will see her sooner rather than later. And unfortunately, that means Rich is not going to be here, or Wicket. But it's nice to have Christy by herself, and it'll be different than we've had for the last few years, because Aura isn't here anymore. So it's a whole different routine, you know, and, you know, be back to the way it was back in the olden days a little bit. But of course we'll visit Aura, and she'll get to see Christy, and that'll be fun. So that's the plans coming up for the summer. I am planning, do some. Rich did some research. They have like, you know, he found a tour that the kids would like in Williamsburg, and I said, do they have mac and cheese? Do they have mac and cheese in old colonial Williamsburg? Apparently they did. Yay! So I'm going to be lobbying the girls for changing it from Gettysburg to Williamsburg. I think they will have a much better time. I don't know where Gettysburg came last year. I think maybe Isabel was studying the Civil War. I'm not sure. So we will be studying colonial America this summer. I think that's going to be the plan. And it's probably relatively easy to book some kind of a trail ride for the girls in Williamsburg. You never know. I can look. And they'd like that. The trail ride is on their agenda, either here or there. But we won't spend the whole week in Williamsburg anyway. We'll only spend a few days, so we'll have time for a trail ride around here while they're here. Meanwhile, I guess I'm going to go. Please take good care of yourselves. Please, please, please stay safe and stay sane.